Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Horizon Dawn, watching the massive space station grow larger on the viewing screen. His heart pounded in his chest. This was it. Humanity's first meeting with alien life. After decades of sending messages into the void, someone had finally answered. "Distance to station 200 kilometers, Doyun said from the tactical console. His fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease, but Minho could see the tension in his shoulders. Everyone was nervous. Hana looked up from her science station, her dark eyes wide. "Captain, I'm reading 17 different atmospheric signatures from the station. 17 different species all in one place." Minho nodded slowly. "The Galactic Council. That's what they called themselves in their messages. A union of spacefaring civilizations that had been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years. And now they wanted to meet humanity. "Sorry, are you ready with the translation programs?" Minho asked. The linguist smiled nervously from her seat. "As ready as I'll ever be. Their language database is incredible. I've been studying it for months, but there's so much I still don't understand." The comm system crackled to life. A strange musical voice filled the bridge. The translation program kicked in immediately. "Human vessel Horizon Dawn, you are cleared to dock at Port 7. Welcome to Unity Station." Minho took a deep breath. "This is Captain Minho of Earth. Thank you for the welcome. We're honored to be here." The docking process took 30 minutes. The station was enormous, easily 10 times the size of any structure humanity had ever built in space. Through the windows, Minho could see ships of all shapes and sizes. Some looked like crystals, others like living organisms. One ship seemed to be made entirely of light. When the airlock finally opened, Minho led his team into the station. The corridor was wide and tall, clearly built to accommodate many different body types. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal, and the air smelled faintly of something sweet and metallic. A figure waited for them at the end of the corridor. It was tall, perhaps 3 meters high, and its body seemed to be made of clear crystal that glowed with soft blue light. As they approached, the crystal being made a gesture that might have been a bow. "I am Velthar, Chief Ambassador of the Galactic Council." The translation came through clearly. "On behalf of all member species, I welcome you." Minho bowed in return. "Thank you, Ambassador. We're grateful for this opportunity." Velthar led them through the station. They passed dozens of different aliens. Some walked on legs, others floated, and one seemed to roll along the floor like a living ball. Many stopped to stare at the humans. Minho couldn't tell if their expressions were curious or hostile. The council chamber was breathtaking. It was a vast circular room with seats arranged in rising tiers. Each section seemed designed for a different type of being. Some seats were underwater, others surrounded by thick gas. In the center was a raised platform where Minho and his team were directed to stand. The chamber filled quickly. Minho counted representatives from all 17 species. Some looked almost friendly. Others kept their distance, watching the humans with what seemed like suspicion. Velthar's voice rang out across the chamber. "We gather today to formally meet the inhabitants of the third planet of the Sol system. This is a historic moment. First contact with a new species is always significant." The session began with simple questions. What did humans need to survive? What was Earth's atmosphere like? How many humans existed? Minho answered everything honestly. Earth had a population of 9 billion. They breathed oxygen and nitrogen. They needed water and food. Standard biology, nothing unusual. Then Velthar asked a different question. "Please provide your planet's designation in all your languages and historical records. This is standard protocol for our archives." Sori stepped forward with a datapad. "We have many names for our world. The most common are Earth and Terra. In our various cultures, we also call it Gaia, Prithvi, Tierra, and dozens of other names." She paused, then added, "There's one more thing. We found something unusual during an archaeological dig in Mongolia 5 years ago. Stone fragments with symbols we couldn't fully translate. They're older than any human civilization we know. The symbols seem to mean birth world of the forgotten or something similar. We included them in our cultural database, though we're not sure if they're even from humans." The reaction was immediate and shocking. Velthar's crystal body began to shake. The blue light inside flickered wildly. Around the chamber, other delegates stood abruptly. Some were making sounds that the translators couldn't process. Others were backing away from the human delegation. A large reptilian creature near the front hissed something that translated as, "Impossible." "They can't be. They're extinct." Velthar raised an appendage. This session is suspended immediately. Human delegation, return to your ship and remain there until further notice. Minho felt cold fear wash over him. Ambassador, what's wrong? What did we say? But Velthar was already moving away, speaking rapidly to other council members. Guards appeared, not threatening but firm, directing the humans back toward the docking port. As they walked back through the corridors, Hana whispered, "Did we do something wrong?" "What was that about?" "I don't know," Minho said quietly, "but something about our planet's name terrified them." Back on the Horizon Dawn, they sealed the airlock and gathered in the conference room. Do-hyun immediately started scanning the station's communications. "Captain, the station is in chaos. Every council species is transmitting to their homeworlds. I'm picking up fragments of messages. They keep using a word the translator can't process. Something like Vorketh." Sori pulled up the archaeological data on her screen. "Let me run that word through the ancient symbol database. Maybe there's a connection." While she worked, Minho stared out the window at the massive station. Ships were launching more than before. The docking bay was buzzing with activity. Whatever they had triggered, it was big. "Captain," Sori's voice was shaking, "I found something. When I run Vorketh through the oldest translation matrix we have from the Council database, and I compare it to those Mongolian symbols, there's a match. Not to Birth World of the Forgotten. The real translation is different." "What does it say?" Minho asked. Sori looked up, her face pale. "Kaveth. It means home soil or the place we return to. Captain, those symbols aren't just ancient. They might not even be human. And the Council recognizes them." Do-hyun's console beeped urgently. "Captain, we have a problem. The Council just activated a defensive perimeter around the station. We're locked in. They've surrounded us with weapons platforms." Minho's blood ran cold. They had come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. Now they were prisoners, and he had no idea why. Something about Earth's true name had awakened fear across the entire galaxy. He just needed to figure out what that was before the Council decided to do something permanent about it. 3 days passed with no word from the Council. The Horizon Dawn remained docked at Unity Station, surrounded by weapons platforms that tracked their every movement. Minho had sent dozens of messages requesting an explanation. All went unanswered. The crew was getting restless. They had traveled across the solar system for this historic meeting, and now they were trapped like prisoners. Worse, they had no idea what crime they had committed. Do-hyun sat at his console late into the ship's night cycle, his eyes red from staring at screens. He had been trying to access the Council's public data networks. Most were locked behind security he couldn't break. But he was patient and skilled. "Got it," he whispered to himself. The Council's public archives opened before him. They were vast, containing millions of years of recorded history from dozens of species. Do-hyun started searching for the word that kept appearing in Council communications. Vorketh. The first results made his skin crawl. The entries were old, some dating back 10 million years. Most were heavily redacted, with large sections deleted or locked behind warnings. But there was enough to piece together a story. "Captain," Do-hyun called over the comm, "you need to see this." Within minutes, Minho, Hana, and Sori were crowded around Do-hyun's station. He pulled up the files he had found. The Vorketh, Do-hyun read from the screen. First contact approximately 15 million years ago. Species designation, Architects of Silence. Threat level, Extinction Class. Hana leaned closer. "Extinction Class? What does that mean?" Do-hyun scrolled through the files. "It means they were dangerous enough to wipe out entire civilizations. Look at this." He opened another document. The Vorketh appeared in the galactic east and began expanding rapidly. Within 300 years, they controlled a third of the known galaxy. Sori read the description aloud. Bipedal species, approximately 1.7 meters average height. Highly adaptable to various environments. Capable of surviving extreme temperatures, high gravity, and low oxygen conditions. Advanced problem-solving abilities. Strong social bonds. Rapid technological development. Aggressive expansion tendencies. She looked up at the others, her face pale. "That sounds like humans." Minho felt his stomach turn. "Keep reading." The files painted a terrifying picture. The Vorketh hadn't just conquered worlds. They had consumed them. Entire species disappeared when the Vorketh arrived. Not killed in war, but erased so completely that only fragments remained in the oldest archives. They didn't destroy civilizations. Hana said softly. They made it like they never existed at all. One file described a species called the Talarn. They had been spacefaring for 50,000 years with colonies on 100 worlds. When the Vorketh reached their space, the Talarn resisted. Within 20 years, there was no trace of them. No ruins, no artifacts, no survivors. Just empty planets and silence. Why did they do it? Sori asked. Was it just cruelty? Doyun found another file. It says here the Vorketh believed in something they called necessary simplification. They thought the galaxy was too crowded, too chaotic. They wanted to organize it, make it efficient. Any species that couldn't adapt to their system was removed. Minho thought of Earth's own history. Humans had done terrible things to each other in the name of order and progress. But this was on a galactic scale. What happened to them? He asked. The Vorketh. Where are they now? Dohyun pulled up the final files. That's the mystery. Approximately 12 million years ago, they vanished. Every single Vorketh disappeared from the galaxy within a few thousand years. The Council's best theory is that they destroyed themselves in a civil war. Something so massive and complete that it left no survivors and no homeworld. Hana was working on her own console, running comparisons. 12 million years. That's a long time. Long enough for evolution to change a species completely, especially if they had to start over from a primitive state. She pulled up a comparison chart. On one side was the description of the Vorketh. On the other was a biological profile of humans. The similarities were striking. Height, build, adaptability, gravity tolerance, problem-solving, social structure, even the tendency toward both cooperation and violence. We match almost every major characteristic, Hana said. The differences could easily be explained by 12 million years of evolution. Sori was working frantically on the Mongolian artifact data. She ran it through translation programs, comparing it to the Vorketh language fragments in the Council archives. The computer worked for several minutes, then displayed a result. Oh no, Sori breathed. The symbols from Mongolia aren't human. They're Vorketh, and the word Kaveth doesn't just mean home soil. In the full context, it means the place of first breath or origin world. The Mongolian artifact is a marker. It's identifying Earth as the Vorketh homeworld. The silence in the room was heavy. Minho looked at each of his crew members. They were good people. Hana was a brilliant scientist who spent her free time painting. Sori could speak 6 human languages and was learning a 7th for fun. Dohyun had a family back on Earth, 2 young children he missed desperately. They were nothing like the monsters described in these files, but their DNA might tell a different story. Could it be true? Dohyun asked quietly. Could we really be descended from them? Hana nodded slowly. It's possible. If the Vorketh had survivors who ended up back on their homeworld, and if they somehow lost their technology, they would have to start over. 12 million years is more than enough time for evolution to reshape them into modern humans. We'd still carry the core traits, the adaptability and intelligence, but everything else would change. Minho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Council ships maintained their vigil. He could see weapons trained on his ship. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations were afraid of them. We need to tell them we're not a threat, Minho said. We're not the Vorketh. We're their descendants maybe, but we're different. Sori shook her head. Captain, to them we are the Vorketh. We have the same biology, the same homeworld, the same basic nature. They've spent millions of years making sure the Vorketh never came back. And now we show up, wanting to join them in exploring the galaxy. They're going to kill us, Dohyun said flatly. Aren't they? They can't risk letting us leave. Before Minho could answer, the comm system activated. Belthar's voice came through, cold and formal. Human delegation, you are ordered to report to the Council chamber immediately. The judgment has been prepared. Minho looked at his crew. They were afraid, but they stood tall. Whatever they were about to face, they would face it together. Understood, Ambassador, Minho replied. We're on our way. As they walked through the station corridors, Minho noticed the change. Before, aliens had stared at them with curiosity. Now they saw fear and hatred. Some moved away quickly when the humans approached. Others watched them with weapons visible. The galaxy had learned Earth's true name, and now humanity would learn the price of that knowledge. The Council chamber looked different now. Armed guards lined the walls, and the seats that had seemed welcoming before now felt like a courtroom. Every delegate was present, and Minho could feel the weight of their stares. Belthar stood at the center, the blue light in the crystal body dim and cold. When the ambassador spoke, there was no warmth in the translated words. Humans of Earth, we have completed our investigation. What we discovered has shaken the foundations of galactic peace. You asked why we reacted with fear to your planet's designation. Now we will show you. A massive holographic display activated above the platform. Images appeared ancient and terrible. Cities burning, worlds stripped bare, species fleeing in panic. And everywhere, figures that looked disturbingly human. 15 million years ago, the Vorketh emerged from a world in the galactic east. They spread like a plague, consuming everything in their path. 47 civilizations fell before them. Trillions of beings were erased from existence. The images continued. Minho saw the faces of the Vorketh clearly now. They could have been human. The resemblance was undeniable. A reptilian delegate stood, scales rattling with anger. The Kresh remember. Our ancestors fled before the Vorketh. They chased us for 1,000 years. Only in the deepest corners of space did we survive. Another voice joined in, this one from a being made of living gas. The Eleth lost 12 colony worlds. Our population never recovered. We still sing songs of mourning for the lost ones. Velthar raised an appendage for silence. When the Vorketh vanished 12 million years ago, the galaxy rejoiced. We thought the nightmare had ended. We built the council on the promise that such darkness would never return. The hologram changed, showing Earth from space. Then it showed the Mongolian artifact, the symbols glowing with ancient meaning. Your planet is Kaveth, the Vorketh homeworld. Our genetic analysis confirms it. You share 98% of your core genetic structure with archived Vorketh samples. You are not similar to them. You are them. Minho felt the words like a physical blow. Around him, his crew stood frozen. We don't know how you survived. Velthar continued. Perhaps some Vorketh returned home before the end. Perhaps they devolved, lost their technology, started over as primitives. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you are now. A screen displayed human history, wars, conquests, empires rising and falling. Minho saw the worst moments of human civilization projected for all to see. In your short recorded history, you have fought over 5,000 major wars. You have developed weapons capable of destroying your entire biosphere. You have spread across your planet with remarkable speed, adapting to every environment. You show all the core traits of the Vorketh: aggression, adaptability, relentless expansion. The Kresh delegate hissed loudly. They are a threat. We must act before they become what their ancestors were. Quarantine or elimination. Those are the only options. Other voices rose in agreement. Minho could see the fear in every face, whether alien or not. They had lived in peace for millions of years, and now the galaxy's ancient nightmare had returned. Velthar turned to face the humans directly. However, there is another perspective. The Eleth believe you deserve consideration. A graceful being with flowing appendages floated forward. When it spoke, the translation carried a musical quality. The young ones are not their ancestors. 12 million years have passed. They have evolved, changed. Should we condemn them for crimes committed by beings who died before they existed? The Eleth delegate gestured toward Minho and his crew. Look at them. They came in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. They brought no weapons. They answered every question honestly. They are afraid, but they have not threatened us. Is this the behavior of the monsters we remember? The chamber erupted in debate. Some voices called for mercy. Others demanded action. Minho listened to them argue over humanity's fate, and anger began to replace his fear. Enough, he said quietly. Then louder, enough! The chamber fell silent. Velthar turned toward him. You wish to speak? Minho stepped forward. Yes, I do. You've shown us images of what the Vorketh did. You've told us we're monsters wearing human skin. But you're wrong. He pointed at the holographic display. Yes, humans have fought wars. We've done terrible things. But we've also built civilizations based on art and music and philosophy. We've created beauty. We've shown compassion. We've changed. Hana stepped up beside him. Every species has darkness in its past. You talk about the Vorketh like they were unique in their violence. But I've studied your histories. The Kresh had a civil war that destroyed 3 of their own colony worlds. The Eleth fought a religious conflict that lasted 800 years. Every species here has blood on their hands. Sori joined them. If the Vorketh disappeared 12 million years ago, and if we are their descendants, then maybe they made a choice. Maybe they realized what they were becoming and decided to change. Maybe they went back to their homeworld and started over, hoping that time and evolution would make them better. The council listened in silence. Minho could see some delegates considering the words. Others looked unconvinced. "We're not asking you to trust us," Minho said. "We're asking for a chance. Send observers to Earth, study us. See for yourselves that we're trying to be better than our history. If the Vorketh's disappearance was a choice to transform, then we're proof that it worked." The Kresh delegate stood again. "Pretty words. But potential is not the same as action. You have already shown Vorketh traits. Your ship carries a gravitational device that our scans detected. Technology that mirrors ancient Vorketh weapons. You claim peace, but you come armed." Dohyun looked shocked. "That device is experimental. It's meant for deep space navigation, not as a weapon." "Intention doesn't matter," the Kresh replied. "Capability does. You have the technology, the biology, and the history. You are a threat whether you mean to be or not." Velthar raised an appendage again. "The debate has been heard. We will now vote on humanity's fate. 3 options. Full quarantine of Earth for 1,000 years, immediate extermination to prevent future threat, or provisional acceptance with strict limitations." Minho felt his chest tighten. They were going to vote on whether his entire species lived or died. The voting began. It was close, painfully close. Some species voted for extermination, their fear too strong. Others chose quarantine, unwilling to kill but too afraid to accept. A few brave voices chose provisional acceptance. While the votes were counted, Dohyun's wrist communicator beeped softly. He glanced at it and his face went pale. "Captain," he whispered, "we have a problem. A Kresh warship just launched a tracking beacon toward our ship. It's not asking permission." Minho looked at the voting display. The numbers were too close. But before he could respond to Dohyun, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. On the holographic display, new images appeared. The tracking beacon approaching the horizon dawn, and the ship's automatic defense systems activating in response. The Kresh commander was shouting, "They're arming weapons. The Vorketh are attacking!" Minho's blood ran cold. His ship wasn't attacking, but the automated systems didn't know that. And now everything was about to fall apart. "All ships, battle stations," Velthar commanded. "Protect the station." The judgment was over. Now came something worse. The galaxy's fear had turned into action, and humanity's first contact was about to become its last. Chaos exploded across the council station. Minho ran toward the docking bay with his crew close behind. Guards tried to stop them, but the confusion was too great. Everywhere, aliens were scrambling to battle stations. "Dohyun, what's happening on the ship?" Minho shouted into his communicator. The response crackled through. "Captain, the Kresh beacon approached too fast. The defense AI interpreted it as a missile. The system went to automatic evasion. They burst through the airlock into the horizon dawn." Minho threw himself into the captain's chair. On the main screen, he could see the Kresh warship moving into attack position. Around the station, more ships were powering up weapons. "Shut down the defense system," Minho ordered. "Now!" Dohyun's fingers flew across the controls. "I'm trying, but the system locked me out. It thinks we're under attack." On the screen, the Kresh warship fired a warning shot that blazed past the horizon dawn's bow. The ship's AI responded by executing a sharp evasion maneuver. The sudden movement sent Minho crashing against his harness, but the evasion worked too well. The horizon dawn's engine wash caught the edge of the Kresh vessel, causing its shields to flare and overload. The warship spun out of control, crashing into a docking arm. "No, no, no," Dohyun shouted. "That wasn't us." The AI just tried to avoid getting hit. Minho watched in horror as the Kresh ship sparked and tumbled. He could see escape pods launching, so the crew was probably safe. But the damage was done. Velthar's voice came over every channel, cold with fury. "Human vessel, you have committed an act of war. Stand down immediately. Ambassador, please listen," Minho transmitted. "That was an accident. Our automated systems misread the situation. We're shutting them down now." But 17 Council warships were already surrounding them, weapons charged and ready. The fear that had simmered for 3 days had erupted into panic. In the engineering section of the Horizon Dawn, young officer Taeyang watched the tactical display with growing terror. Ships were closing in from all sides. His fingers hovered over the emergency defense controls. The ship had one experimental system that might protect them, a gravitational shear device designed for clearing space debris. Taeyang had trained on the system for months. It was meant to be used in empty space, never near other vessels. But the Council ships were seconds away from firing. His friends, his captain, everyone he knew was about to die. He made a decision. His hand slammed down on the activation controls. The gravitational shear device powered up in less than a second. It created a ripple in space-time, a wave of distorted gravity that pulsed outward from the horizon dawn. The effect was supposed to be gentle, just enough to push objects aside, but the device had never been tested at full power, and it had never been used when surrounded by ships with active shield systems. The gravity wave hit the Council vessels. Their shields tried to compensate, creating feedback loops that amplified the effect. 17 ships lost power simultaneously. Their engines went dark. Their weapons deactivated. Their systems crashed. The ships didn't explode or break apart. They just stopped, hanging dead in space around the station. On the bridge, Minho stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "What just happened?" "Do-hyun, what was that?" Do-hyun checked his readings, his face going from confused to terrified. "Captain, someone activated the gravitational device. All the Council ships are disabled." Minho felt ice in his veins. "Who activated it?" "I didn't give that order." From engineering, Taeyang's shaking voice came over the comm. "Captain, it was me." "I'm sorry. They were going to fire. I thought I was protecting us." The comm channels erupted with panic and rage. Every Council species was transmitting at once. The Kresh were screaming about betrayal. The Eleth were calling for calm. Velthar was trying to restore order, but no one was listening. On the main screen, a priority channel opened. It was Velthar, and the crystal body was pulsing red instead of blue. "Captain Minho, you have just demonstrated exactly what we feared. You possess technology that disables our fleets, technology that matches ancient Vorketh weapons described in our oldest archives. You came here claiming peace, but you've shown your true nature." "Ambassador, please," Minho pleaded. "That was a defensive system, not a weapon. We didn't mean to disable your ships. We were afraid you were going to destroy us." "Your intentions are irrelevant," Velthar replied. "You have the capability to neutralize our defenses. The Vorketh used similar weapons to cripple entire fleets before destroying civilizations. Whether you intended this or not, you have proven you are too dangerous to leave unchecked." The other Council members were speaking now, their voices overlapping. "They must be contained. Quarantine is not enough. The threat is real." Hana grabbed Minho's arm. "Captain, we need to do something. They're going to kill us." Minho knew she was right. The Council's fear had become certainty. They would never let the Horizon Dawn leave now. But there was one thing that might save them. One piece of evidence that could change everything. "Sorry," he said urgently. "The Mongolian artifact. You said it was more than just a marker. You said it might be a data storage device." Sorry nodded quickly. "Yes, but we haven't had time to decode it. The encryption is biological. It needs specific DNA sequences to unlock." "Human DNA?" Minho asked. "Vorketh DNA," Sorry corrected. "Which might be the same thing." Minho made a decision. "Work on it now. If that artifact contains information about what happened to the Vorketh, it might be our only chance." He opened a channel to Velthar. "Ambassador, give us 6 hours. There's something we need to show you, evidence that might explain everything." "You are in no position to make demands," Velthar replied. "I'm not demanding. I'm begging." Minho let all his desperation show in his voice. 6 hours to decode the artifact from Earth. If we're right, it will tell us what really happened to the Vorketh. Don't you want to know the truth?" There was a long silence. Then Velthar spoke quietly. "You have 3 hours. Our backup fleets are already on their way. When they arrive, if you haven't convinced us, this ends. One way or another, the channel closed." Minho turned to Sorry. 3 hours. Can you do it?" Sorry was already running to her lab. "I don't know, but I'll try." Hana and Yujin joined her, bringing every piece of equipment they could carry. The artifact sat on the lab table, an innocent-looking piece of stone covered in strange symbols. It had crossed 12 million years of time to reach this moment. Do-hyun stayed on the bridge with Minho, watching the disabled Council ships beginning to reboot their systems. In the distance, he could see new ships arriving. Bigger ships. "Warships designed for serious combat, Captain," Do-hyun said softly. "Even if Sorry figures out the artifact, will it matter? The Council has already made up their minds about us." Minho stared at the approaching fleet. "Maybe. But if we're going to die today, I want to die knowing the truth. I want to know why the Vorketh disappeared. I want to know if we really are monsters or if there's something more to this story." In the lab, Sori was working frantically. She had taken a DNA sample from her own blood and was using it to try to unlock the artifact's encryption. The stone was reacting, glowing faintly with light that hadn't been seen in millions of years. "It's working," she whispered. "It's actually working." The artifact began to hum, a sound that seemed to resonate in their bones. Data started flowing into the ship's computers, massive amounts of information stored in biological crystals inside the stone. And somewhere in that ancient data was the answer they needed. The truth about the Vorkath, the truth about humanity, the truth that might save them all or condemn them forever. 2 hours had passed. The artifact's data was still downloading into the ship's computers, layer after layer of information encoded in biological memory that had waited 12 million years to be read. Sori worked with Hana and Yujin, sorting through streams of data. Most of it was corrupted or incomplete, but there were fragments, pieces of a story that slowly came together. "Captain," Sori called over the comm, "we found something. It's a message." "A recording." Minho left the bridge and rushed to the lab. The artifact sat on the table, glowing with soft golden light. On the screen above it, symbols were translating into human language. The encryption was designed specifically for Vorkath biology, Hana explained. It needed our DNA to unlock. Whoever made this wanted to make sure only their descendants could read it. "Play the message," Minho said. The screen flickered, and a hologram appeared. It was a Vorkath, or what the Vorkath had been. The figure was unmistakably humanoid, but taller and stronger than modern humans. It wore simple clothing and stood in what looked like a vast chamber. When it spoke, the translation came through clearly. The voice was tired, sad, and infinitely weary. "My name is Kal. I am the last administrator of the Vorkath people. If you are seeing this, then our plan worked. You are our children, born from our choice to change." The hologram paused, and Kal seemed to gather strength. "We were conquerors. For 5,000 years, we spread across the galaxy. We believed we were bringing order to chaos. We thought we were making the universe better, but we were wrong." Images appeared behind Kal showing the Vorkath expansion. But unlike the Council's images of war and destruction, these showed something different. The Vorkath had genuinely believed they were helping. They had thought their way was the only way. "We realized too late what we had become," Kal continued. "We had erased 47 civilizations, not out of cruelty, but out of absolute certainty that we were right. That certainty made us monsters. We looked at the galaxy and saw only problems to fix, resources to use, chaos to organize. We couldn't see the beauty and difference. We couldn't understand that our order was another species' extinction." Minho watched, transfixed. The Council fleet was approaching, but this moment mattered more than anything. Kal's image showed pain. We debated for generations. Some wanted to continue, believing we could become better conquerors. Others wanted to simply end ourselves to remove the threat we posed. But a third group proposed something different, something radical. The hologram showed the Vorkath homeworld, Kaveth, what humans now called Earth. We decided to transform, not just our civilization but ourselves, our very biology. We gathered our greatest minds, our best genetic engineers, and we created a plan. Images showed vast laboratories, Vorkath working together on something enormous. We would return to our homeworld. We would use genetic regression to strip away our advanced adaptations, make ourselves primitive again. Then we would seal away all our technology, all our knowledge. We would let time and evolution reshape us over millions of years. Kal looked directly at the camera, as if seeing through time to whoever would watch this message. "We gambled everything on the hope that time would change us. That starting over, living through thousands of generations without our technology would teach us humility. That struggling to survive would teach us compassion. That being small and vulnerable would teach us to value life." The hologram showed the final days of the Vorkath civilization. They were destroying their ships, shutting down their colonies, gathering everyone back to their homeworld. Every Vorkath chose to return. We left no one behind. We accepted that we were ending our civilization so that something better could begin. Tears streamed down Sori's face as she watched. Hana held Yujin's hand tightly. Even Dohyun, watching from the bridge, was silent. "The genetic regression will take 1,000 generations," Kal said. "You will lose your strength, your resistance, your intelligence for a time. You will become primitive. You will forget everything we were. But slowly, over millions of years, you will evolve again. You will rediscover fire, tools, language, civilization. And this time, You will do it without our arrogance. The images showed Vorketh entering stasis chambers, accepting the regression treatment. Children being born smaller and weaker than their parents. A civilization willingly walking backward into primitiveness. We place these markers across Kaveth, Kal continued. Encoded with our DNA. Programmed to activate only when our descendants are ready. When you find this message, it means you have reached the stars again. It means you survived. It means you changed. Kal's expression grew intense. If you are watching this, then judge us. Judge the Vorketh for what we were, but judge yourselves for what you have become. Are you still conquerors? Are you still certain that your way is the only way? Or have 12 million years taught you what we never learned until it was too late? The hologram showed the Vorketh in their final days, transformed into something that looked almost like early humans. We chose transformation over destruction. We chose hope over certainty. We chose to become small so that one day our children might become great. Not in power, but in wisdom. Kale's image began to fade. To our descendants, whoever you are, whatever you have become, know this. You are not monsters. You are the children of monsters who chose to change. The galaxy will fear you. They will see only what we were. But you must show them what you are. Not through conquest or domination, but through choice. Every day you must choose to be better than we were. The hologram disappeared. The artifact's light dimmed. In the lab, no one spoke for a long moment. Minho's communicator beeped. Velthar's voice came through. Human Captain, your time is up. The fleet has arrived. Have you found your evidence? Minho looked at his crew. They nodded. Yes, Ambassador, we have. And you need to see it. 20 minutes later, the message was being broadcast throughout the council station. Every delegate watched Kal's confession. The chamber was silent except for the ancient Vorketh's words. When it ended, the silence continued. Then slowly, the Eleth delegate floated forward. They chose to transform. They recognized their own darkness and spent 12 million years trying to escape it. The Kresh delegate was less convinced. They were still the Vorketh. This message doesn't erase what they did. No, Velthar said quietly, but it explains what the humans are. They are not the Vorketh returning. They are the Vorketh's greatest act of redemption, a species that looked at itself and said, we must become different even if it takes millions of years. The voting began again. This time, the numbers shifted. Not everyone was convinced, but enough were moved by Kal's message. Humanity would not be exterminated. They would not be quarantined forever. Instead, they would be granted provisional membership in the Council. There would be observers on Earth. There would be restrictions on expansion. But humanity would be given a chance to prove they were more than their ancestors' legacy. When the Horizon Dawn finally prepared to leave Unity Station, Velthar met with Minho one last time. The crystal being's light was blue again, but thoughtful. Your species frightens us, Captain, Velthar admitted, not because of what you are, but because of what you represent. If the Vorketh could choose to transform themselves, if they could recognize their own evil, and spend millions of years changing it, then every species must confront their own capacity for darkness. Minho understood. You're not just afraid of us. You're afraid of what it means that we exist. Yes, Velthar said. You are proof that change is possible even for the worst of us. That is a heavy burden to carry. As the Horizon Dawn flew away from Unity Station, Minho recorded a message for Earth. He told them about first contact, about the fear and judgment, about the truth they had discovered. We are the children of the Vorketh, he said to the camera. Our ancestors were monsters who consumed civilizations. But they made a choice. They chose to transform, to become something better, even if it took 12 million years. That choice is in our DNA, passed down through countless generations. He paused, looking out at the stars. The galaxy will always remember what the Vorketh were. They will always fear what we might become, so we must prove every single day that we are worthy of our ancestors' sacrifice. We must choose to be better. Not just once, but constantly. Not because it's easy, but because 12 million years ago the Vorketh looked at themselves and said, our children deserve a chance to be different. Minho ended the recording. Around him, his crew prepared for the long journey home. They would return to Earth as ambassadors of a species that carried both a terrible legacy and an incredible gift. They were proof that even monsters could choose redemption. The real journey was just beginning. Humanity would take its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as the living testament to the power of transformation. The galaxy would watch them carefully, fearfully, hopefully, and every human would carry the weight of that ancient choice. They were the Vorketh's answer to the question, can a species change its fundamental nature? 12 million years of evolution said yes. Now humanity had to prove it every day,